Today we're going to work with the slope-intercept form. My essential question is, how do I write equations of a line in slope-intercept form? Slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b. You must memorize this formula. When writing the final equation, we only substitute for m and b. What we're going to work with today, ladies and gentlemen, is we're going to work with writing slope-intercept form when you're given a graph, when you're given two ordered pairs, and when you're given one ordered pair and your slope. Excuse me. When writing the final equation, we only substitute for m and b. We are now going to practice writing our equation in slope-intercept form when we're given a graph. The first thing we would do is identify the slope. Secondly, we're going to identify the y-intercept. And finally, we are then going to be able to write the equation. Let's look at our graph. In order for you to identify the slope, you have to first find 2 points. Any 2 points on the graph will do. And why are we finding these 2 points? So that we can do our rise over run. Our rise over run means what did I do to go from one point to the second? I rise and then I run. And that's what we're going to write down. Rise and then we're going to write run. Rise means how many times did you go up? I moved up 2 spaces. Run, that means how many times did I move to the left or right? In my particular case, I moved to the right. I moved to the right 1 time. Ladies and gentlemen, our slope is 2. When we're dealing with fractions, if our bottom number is 1, we drop our bottom number and keep our top number. So we're going to go to our box, and right next to the letter M, we're going to write the number 2, because remember, M represents our slope. Now we're going to find our y-intercept. Your y-intercept is what number does that line hit your y-axis. What number does my blue line hit my y-axis? And the number is -3. So my y-intercept is -3. I go over to my box once again, and right next to b equals, I'm going to write -3 because that is my y-intercept. Now I'm going to take the information that we have in our box, and we're going to write that information as an equation. My equation is y equals mx plus b. Instead of writing my m, I'm going to write 2. My x stays the same. And instead of writing my b, I'm going to write -3. This is the equation of a line for this particular graph. Now we're going to move down to my second graph. and we do the same thing that we did in the first graph. We identify 2 points on the graph so that we can do our rise over run. My first point that I'm going to use is going to be my origin. The second point, once I have selected my 2 points, I do my rise over run. And remember, rise over run means what did I do? How many times did I move to go from the first point to the second point? So in this case, I rise, I moved up 2 times. So I rise 2. How many times did I run? Once. And because I moved to the left, that's why my number is negative. So I ran to the left. And when you move to the left, your answer is negative. So my slope for this problem is -2. I move over to my box, and right next to m equals, I'm going to write -2. Now I have to find my y-intercept. This particular problem is special because, as you can see, my line is going through my origin. Whenever your line is going through your origin, your y-intercept is always 0. So in this particular case, my y-intercept is 0. I move over to my box, and right next to b equals, I write 0. Remember, that's a special case. Whenever your line is going through your origin, your y-intercept is 0. So you use the information that you gathered and you write your equation. This particular equation is going to look like that. You can write y equals -2x. You do not have to write your b because your b is 0. So that is your equation. Y equals -2x. Let's move to page 2, the second page of our notes. On this particular page, we are going to we're going to write the equation in slope-intercept form using 2 points and also using the slope and 1 point. Here are our instructions. Determine the slope of the line, substitute the slope and 1 point into the formula y equals mx plus b, and solve for b, and finally write the equation in slope-intercept form. Again, this is what we're going to do. On this very first line, you're going to write the word slope. Determine the slope of the line. Now we're going to substitute the slope and 1 point. Substitute the slope and 1 point into the formula y equals mx plus b, and solve for b. Finally, we're going to write the equation in slope-intercept form. Now we're going to practice our problems. In order for you to do this first practice problem, you have to know the slope formula. Your slope formula is the change in y over, your slope formula is the change in y over the change in x, or y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. When I'm given 2 points and I'm trying to find the slope, I identify each set of ordered pairs. I put a little 1 under here, and I put a 2 under there. That tells me that that first ordered pair, that's my first set. My second ordered pair is my second set. And that helps me when I'm doing my y1 minus y2 and my x1 minus x2. Okay, this particular problem, I found my slope. My y1 is 1. My y2 is negative x. But remember, because in my formula I have a subtraction sign, negative and negative make positive. That's why I have that plus 8. My x1 is 2 and my x2 is 5. So I replace my letters with my numbers given. 1 plus 8 is 9. 2 minus 5 is subtracting integers. Why do I know it's subtracting integers? Because my first number is small, my second number is large. When you are subtracting integers, if your first number is small and your second number is large, your answer is automatically negative. That's where I get my negative 3 from. And because this is in fraction form, we need to reduce if possible. So this particular problem, when we reduce it, it becomes negative 3. So that's my slope, negative 3. Now we are going to substitute my slope in one point in order to find B. What am I talking about when I say substitute? That means use your slope-intercept formula. This is what you're going to use. Y equals mx plus b. You're going to use this formula when it's talking about substitution so that you can find b. In order for you to substitute, you have to pick one ordered pair. I always pick the ordered pairs that have both x and y as positive numbers. So I'm going to pick ordered pair number 1. So instead of writing y, I'm going to write the number 1. My m represents my slope, so I have a negative 3. My x is going to be the number 2. Now I solve. Now all I need to do is move everything away from my b. As you can see, I have 1 equals negative 6 plus b. I want to take that negative 6 and move it from the side where it is to the side where I have my 1. I'm combining like terms. But in order to move my 6, I have to do the opposite of negative 6. The opposite of negative 6 is positive 6. Remember, what you do to one side, you have to do the same thing to the other. After I solve my problem, I bring down my b. So my y-intercept is b. Now that I have my slope and my y-intercept, I can write my final equation. And my final equation is y equals negative 3x plus 7. That's my final equation. Now, I'm going to move down, and you have 4 practice problems. Problems A, B, and C, and then problem D. I'm going to do problem A, B, C, and D with you, and then you're going to have some practice problems that you're going to do on your own. Let's look at practice problem A. Practice problem A. You have 2 points. Remember, when you have 2 points, you have to use your slope formula. Because I have a little room on the side, I'm going to do practice problem A on the side. So again, before I do anything, I label my points. This is my first set of ordered pairs, and then I have my second set of ordered pairs. Okay, my slope for problem A. My slope for problem A is 4. We have to remember that when we are dealing with fractions, if the top number and the bottom number are both negative, those two negatives combine to make a positive. Also, when you're dealing with integers, if your first number is small and your second number is large, you are subtracting integers. That means that your answer is automatically negative. That is where I got a -4 from, and that is also where I got my -1. -4 divided by -1 is +4. So my slope for this particular problem is +4. Now that I've found my slope, I need to pick a set of ordered pairs and solve for B. The set of ordered pairs that I'm going to pick is that first set, 2 and 5. So the first thing that I need to do is write my equation, but I replace my letters with the numbers that I've selected. So instead of writing Y, I'm going to write 5. Instead of writing M, I'm going to replace my M with my 4 because M represents my slope. I'm going to replace X with 2. Now, draw my line for balance and I solve my problem. Remember, always start on the side with your math problem. 4 times 2 is 8. You bring down your B. Now, you are combining like terms, which means you are going to put the plain numbers together. And our two plain numbers would be my 8 and my 5. I am going to move 8 away from B because I need to make B lonely. How do I do that? I do the opposite of +8, which is -8. My two 8's cancel out, and I'm left with -3 on side A, and I bring my B down for side B. The reason my answer is a -3 is because my top number is small, my bottom number is large, so my answer is -3. Now that I have my B, all I need to do is write my final equation. And my final equation will be in the form of y equals mx plus b. So my final equation is y equals 4x minus 3. That would be my final equation. The reason it is y equals 4x minus 3 is because 4 represents my slope and -3 represents my y-intercept or my b. Now let's do problem B. Again, we must use the slope formula. Before I use my slope formula, I identify my ordered pairs. That first set of ordered pairs is where I put my 1. I put my 2 on top of my second set. And now I write everything down. My y1 is 8. My y2 is also 8. My x1 is 3. And my x2 is 4. When you subtract 8 and 8, you get 0. And at the bottom, you have your first number is small, your second number is large. We know that it is going to be a negative, and so my answer is -1. Remember, when 1 is on the bottom, you drop the bottom number and you keep your top number. So my slope for this problem is 0. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a special case because when you have a 0 slope, you have a horizontal line. The equation of a horizontal line is y equals, and then whatever number you choose. In this particular case, I am going to choose 8. You can choose whatever number you'd like. I'm choosing 8. The reason I'm choosing 8 is because if we work problem B like we worked problem A, then you would realize that your y-intercept would be 8. So your final equation is y equals 8. Now, let's do problem C. Again, before I do anything, I need to label my first set of ordered pairs and my second. That's my first set. That's my second set. And so now I use my slope formula. My y my y1 is 9. My y2 is 4. My x1, oops, I'm sorry. My y2 is actually 1. Sorry about that. My x1 is 4. My y2 is 4. Okay, this is 8, and that's 0. Ladies and gentlemen, when we have 0 on the bottom, this is also a special case. This is a vertical line which has an undefined slope. Okay, that is a special case. It's a vertical line and it has an undefined slope. This problem C, has a special form. It is x equals and then the number. Your number is always going to be your x coordinate. This number sign represents your x coordinate. This vertical line is the only one that cannot be written as y equals mx plus b. That's what makes it special. That's what makes it an exception to the rule. It must be written as x equals and your y coordinate. You cannot write y equals mx plus b. You have to write x equals and then a number. Make sure you write this down because this rule is special. When you have 0 on the bottom, it's an undefined slope. Now we're going to work our final problem, which is our slope that's already given and our point. What you must do with this particular problem is simply replace. You were given your y. So I would write my y. I'm given my slope. I write my slope. I'm given my x. And now you're going to solve for b. This doesn't look like a plus sign. It looks like an addition sign. So let me start again. Now I'm ready to solve. 1/2 times -2. That's going to give me a -1. What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to make the letter B lonely. I'm solving equations. So I draw my line for balance and I begin my work. -1 plus B. Again, I'm trying to make my letter lonely. So I take my -1, move it to the same side with my 5. Because my 1 is negative, when I move it over, it becomes positive. I cancel my 1's out. I bring down my B, and then I solve my problem. 5 plus 1 is 6. So my y-intercept is 6. My final equation is y equals, looks like a z. Let me try again. Y equals, my slope is 1/2, 1 over 2 x plus 6. Ladies and gentlemen, we're done. Next, you need to go to your summary page and write down your summary. And these are notes that you remember from our lesson. You need to write down at least 2 to 3 sentence summary. Make sure it includes the slope formula and the slope intercept formula, as well as the notes concerning horizontal and vertical line. Thank you.